it's 70 degrees out and sunny and.
You have to rub it.
He was outside yesterday, AV day.
Oh, you
It's
were
cold and rainy.
cold and rainy.
That's my story.
Make some comments there, but we'll stay away from that. What's that?
I don't know if they
Perfect.
actually use that mic.
Does anybody use that?
Yeah.
That's yours?
It just doesn't turn red. Never know. We are ready, Sandra.
All right. Well, welcome. It's good to see everybody here today on Tax Day, April 16th. Living in Minnesota is already a very high tax state, as many of our residents are finding out. But under DFL control, it's getting even harder for Minnesota families. Let's be clear about the record. Democrats took an $18 billion budget surplus, the money that Minnesotans worked hard and earned through very prudent state government at the time when the Republicans led the Minnesota Senate, and they spent that, every single penny, and then they raised taxes by $10 billion. As a result, Minnesota is less competitive. We've dropped down the list from 42 to 44th in the nation. And when you compare growth of the state spending to the growth of the state population, the difference is simply unsustainable. That's what our graph is showing here today. It's no surprise that Democrats' tax and spend budget leads to future deficits, yet they continue to push even more tax increases. This year, they proposed new taxes on social media and advertising. They want to extend the sales tax to legal and accounting services that we use in filing our taxes and making sure that we are putting our estates in order. They demand a fifth tier of income taxes and offer a new statewide property tax, and even a constitutional amendment that raises sales tax for housing. While Minnesota families are struggling with groceries, with housing, and with gas, Democrats' answer is to keep reaching deeper into your pockets. In contrast, we're seeing a relief at the federal level, thanks to federal changes. Americans are getting some of the largest tax returns that they've seen in years. Average refunds are up 11% this year, and sitting around $3,500 nationally as the refund for families. Nearly half of all filers are using a new deduction, or 1 in 4 are keeping more in their tips and overtime pay. Yet here in Minnesota, Democrats still are opposing these federal changes. The simple reality is this: it is too taxing to live in the state of Minnesota right now, and Democrat spending is making life less affordable. Rather than address the root cause of overspending, let's right-size the budget. Democrats are dedicated to finding more and more revenue, pinching the budgets and pockets of every Minnesotan. We believe there's a better way. We should control spending, eliminate fraud, and prioritize the core services to our citizens. Minnesotans actually need this. It's time to stop making life more expensive and start making Minnesota more affordable. Now I'm going to send this over to Senator Jasinski to talk about some of the ideas that we have on making life more affordable for Minnesotans. Senator Jasinski.
Thanks, Mark. And I don't have any notes because it's pretty easy to talk about what's going on today. Just an example. So I've been in local and state government for 33 years in my hometown of Faribault. This last Saturday, I went in the grocery store and I got stopped 13 times. 13 times to talk about affordability between license tabs, fraud, property taxes. People are getting overwhelmed with taxes. License tab fees in Minnesota are crazy. When we had the majority back in 2017, 2018, we prioritized transportation money with existing funds. We used bonding money. We captured an auto parts sales tax. We didn't tax people. We had just as much investments in transportation than they're trying to now. I'm all for investing money in transportation and roads and bridges, but we don't need to keep taxing people. In the House, there was a hearing. Representative Lugar Nikolai suggested quintupling the license tab fees. Now, my license tabs fee on a one-year-old truck were $1,050. That's outrageous. And if you look at the costs in Minnesota, what it costs to own a car for 5 years, $3,520. Look at our neighboring states. Representative Tabke said that Minnesota has one of the lowest license fee tabs, Does it look like that to you? These are on a new car over 5 years, and Minnesota is outrageously high compared to our neighboring states. So we need to prioritize our efforts to put roads and bridges at the top of our list and use existing money to fund our roads and not keep taxing people. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Kreun.
Thank you, Senator Jasinski. Senator Michael Kreun. I'm going to talk about property taxes today. For too many Minnesota families, the cost of home ownership has become simply unaffordable. And high property taxes are a major reason why. County leaders warned Democrats loud and clear that their massive spending spree in 2023 would drive up property taxes. And the Democrats did it anyway, and it did drive up property taxes. And the result is exactly as we predicted. Unfunded mandates, overregulation, unsustainable spending coming out of the Capitol here in St. Paul have forced local governments to raise property taxes across the state. Now Democrats want to pile on even more pain by creating a new statewide property tax that would cost some homeowners thousands of extra dollars every year on top of the already high local property taxes that they pay. We have a major housing crisis in Minnesota. And in part, that's because people are staying in their homes longer than they otherwise would because moving up is too expensive. And that leaves fewer affordable homes for first-time homebuyers. A statewide property taxes that hits larger homes will further exacerbate that problem. It puts the American dream more out of reach. It makes it more expensive for young families, working people, and also harms seniors who have built equity through home ownership and often are on a fixed income. Republicans believe we must stop the cycle of unfunded mandates and reckless state spending that gets passed on to the local taxpayers. We need to right-size state government, reduce regulations, and give local communities breathing room instead of constantly forcing them to raise taxes. Property taxes should not be the default piggy bank for St. Paul, for the spending addiction that comes right out of here at the Capitol. Minnesotans deserve affordability, not another tax increase hidden in their property tax bill. This tax day, Republicans are sounding the alarm. Democrat policies are making life in Minnesota too taxing for many of our families. It's time for a new direction focused on spending restraint and real relief. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Senator Johnson.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Senators Jasinski and Kreun, for that. Today is a tax day, and Minnesotans across the state are realizing exactly what the impact is to their pocketbook of Minnesota and federal taxes. And this is an opportunity for us to come out and demonstrate to Minnesotans there is an alternative way. There's a better way in Minnesota, prioritizing the affordability of Minnesotans' lives. And that's what we stand for, and that's what we're fighting for every single day down here in St. Paul. With that, happy to take questions on these proposals.
Are you getting any traction at all on these ideas, given that you're in the minority?
Well, we absolutely, with Minnesotans, when we go out and talk, like Senator Jasinski brought up, Minnesotans are asking for this all the time. When we talk about eliminating fraud in this state, when we talk about reducing taxes in this state, these are things that Minnesotans care deeply about. They see this as a waste of money, what's going on down here right now. Minnesotans are asking for that. The problem is Democrats continue to find new avenues to tax Minnesotans and the companies that will pass it through to Minnesota taxpayers. So they're prioritizing state government. We're actually looking at and trying to make sure that Minnesotans are taken care of. So unfortunately, Democrats just seem very resistant to the idea of protecting the Minnesotans' pocketbook right now.
What services do you want to cut, and please be specific?
So reporters and Democrats continue to do this, where they go and they say, hey, Minnesotans or Republicans, what do you want to cut out of Minnesota's budget? What services, what do you want to do? What we're saying is let's prioritize Minnesotans, right? Let's make sure that we're not giving money over to fraudsters. Let's make sure that we're not growing government by 40%. Let's make sure that we're doing these things and make sure that we're right-sizing the state government. It doesn't mean that we're cutting services, but it means that we're making life better for Minnesota, that we're making sure that the services that are rendered through our state are actually doing where they're supposed to be doing. So continue to make things more efficient here, make it better for Minnesota, that you can reach out to an agency and there's gonna be somebody answering the phone. I mean, this is what we expect from Minnesotans. So it's not about cutting things, it's about making sure that we're doing our jobs.
Senator Jasinski, do you want to weigh in on the transportation stuff too?
Sure. So greenhouse gases are a thing that we just, I've been talking about, got passed in 2023. There was a House hearing. You're hearing 20 to 50% more cost to build a road now, given these new greenhouse gas requirements. So we're spending more money on less roads. We can prioritize. Minnesota's the only state that has this greenhouse gas mandates. There's other states that have targets and incentives, but we're the only one that actually has a mandate. So it's going to cost 50% more to build a road in the future than it did before because of greenhouse gas emissions requirements. That Minnesota is the only one that has the mandate in the nation. So another example of prioritizing. We built lots of roads, 2017, 2018, 2019, we funded all those roads. I think the bonding bill in 2018 had $300 million in the bonding bill for roads and bridges. The governor in his request yesterday in capital investment, $50 million. So it's prioritizing the money where it's spent, what it's spent on, and less regulations. We can do that. Thank you.
Do you have any like top tax cut proposals that you could speak to, or is most of this just kind of defense here?
Yeah, some of the things that we could do, just low-hanging fruit right now, is conformity with the federal tax bill. Tax on tips and overtime, I mean, that's a simple one. That was highlighted here earlier this week at the federal level. But also, some of the things that are actually helping our businesses too, the 179 conformity and other things like that, help our small businesses across the state as well too. So those make up a large percentage of employers for Minnesotans, which would be very helpful for those industries as well too. So those are some of the small things that we could be attacking as well. But some of the fees, we brought up the tab fee, things like that we could be reallocating those dollars in a very effective way, I think, going forward. So there's some very simple things going forward that we could be doing, but it seems like Democrats, again, are pretty resistant to any sort of conformity or any of those issues.
On tab fees, local leaders in your district seem to really like this revenue that's coming in. What are your conversations like with them?
Sure. Do you want to take that?
Sure.
Okay.
Again, we need to prioritize. I mean, everybody likes money for roads and bridges. I do as well. But when we're spending money on things that we shouldn't be spending money on, just an example, Rethink I-94 is a project they spent $20 million is the last number I heard. And now they want another state to rethink it again because they didn't like the results. So, yeah, you're right. Local people want money for roads and bridges. LREP is a great program. The governor didn't put any of that money for LREP in his budget for bonding. LREP's been used many, many years. It's a local, it ranks projects, it rates them. There's local participation, and then they can use that money to match those money to build more roads. But the way it's being done now is they're taking all that money and they're spending on things that are not worth spending money on. I mean, it all sounds great, these greenhouse gas emissions, it sounds great on paper, but we don't see the results. We're not gonna see those results. We have no proof those results are there. We're building trails, we're building sidewalks instead of interchanges and road miles. In rural Minnesota, we want more roads. We wanna get commerce across the state. We wanna get vacationers to go up north. We need those roads, and Democrats are making it tougher and tougher to build roads. County engineers, city engineers, former State Senator Carla Bigham testified how bad this was. And yet they went ahead and did it. I have a bill to turn that back, to stop those. I didn't get a hearing on it. They had the hearing in the House, and if you watch that hearing in the House, it's amazing what people are saying against that. We need to prioritize how we spend that money, and yes, we need it for transportation, there's no doubt. We need to prioritize and not waste the money on things that aren't giving us results.
Folks have mentioned bonding a couple times here. Is anything going to emerge that you guys would put up enough votes to pass?
Well, we've said since the very beginning on this that we would love to invest in the state of Minnesota and the projects across the state. We haven't started those negotiations or anything at this point yet. So we got to see what bonding bill looks like. It's got to originate over in the House on that side. So we'll be working with our counterparts on seeing what the options are going forward.
How do you guys feel about the? Go ahead. Sorry. How do you guys feel about the HCMC ballpark tax proposal?
Again, there's a number of ideas that are floating around. I've seen a couple of different proposals on the sales tax. I know Hennepin County has one of the highest sales tax additions in the state right now. And so it's difficult to see what the pathway is going to be there, but I know HCMC is getting to a critical point. We got to make some decisions on what's going to happen there for the future of HCMC in their operation and the services they provide across the state. So that's still being talked about. Hopefully we can come up with something before the end of session.
Will your caucus have companion bills, I might have missed this, to the Davids or Schultz bills in the House that would give the one-time refund for property taxes next year?
The rebate. Do you want to talk about that?
I've not heard of the Green Jackets coming over from the House. We're certainly open to looking at, carrying companion bills. I guess you could say a property tax rebate is better than nothing, but it's woefully insufficient. Minnesotans need permanent and ongoing property tax relief. That's where our focus should be. The easiest thing in the world down here at the Capitol is to impose mandates on somebody else and let them deal with the fallout of increasing taxes. And that's exactly what's happening with property taxes. It's a cowardly way for legislators here at the Capitol to raise taxes without having to vote to raise taxes. That's essentially what they're doing. I had a bill that I've introduced that has not gotten a hearing that would cap property taxes at the rate of inflation and then have to go to the voters to go above that. And that wasn't an attack on local governments. I do respect the position that local governments are in, but we need to have real meaningful tax relief now for property taxes to Minnesotans, and that is the most immediate way to do it. And you need that restraint in order to restrain the Democrats here at the legislature from putting the unfunded mandates on the local governments in the first place. There's also a proposal out there to create a task force to look at property taxes. Again, Minnesotans need property tax relief right now. We don't need a task force. If you look at that bill and the guidance from that bill from the legislature to the task force, it deals with, I think most of the things are about classification. That is beside the point. The problem with property taxes is there's too much spending and too many unfunded mandates that go to local units of government. It's not a classification problem. That's just, rearranging the chairs on the Titanic's, that proverbial cliche. That's all that is. And creating a task force in a very few instances is a good idea, but most of the time when you see a bill like that, it's just legislators wanting to pretend they're doing something on an issue without having to do anything. And that's exactly what that task force bill for property taxes does. It's legislators pretending to their voters that they care about property taxes, that they're doing something about property taxes without actually doing anything about property taxes.
Anything else? All right.
All right. Excellent. Well, you guys get the award today for up earliest.
Gold stars.
That's good. We know who the hard workers are there.